Hello, and let me welcome Alok Ajmera, who's the president and CEO of Prophix, to the Future of Finance Revealed. Welcome on board.
Thanks, Rob. Really excited to be here.
I think one of the things that really excites me is that, the finance world is really changing and evolving and really buzzing about AI. And there's just so much that's going on, and CFOs are trying to figure out and grapple with what's going on day to day and long term and how AI is going to impact that. From your perspective, what is the current state of the office of the CFO, and why is this conversation just so urgent?
Yeah, it's so interesting. For many years, we've been working with finance leaders, organizations, corporate finance teams, et cetera. And even today, organizations are employing their most professional finance leaders in incredibly manual processes, repetitive tasks, and they're spending a bunch of their time just wrangling information, hunting down answers. It's not about inefficiency, it's actually about missed opportunity. And really what's happening today is we're at this amazing inflection point, obviously with generative AI kind of getting to more maturity, such that we can go from streamlining work, which was really about taking something that took 2 weeks and cutting it down to a week, or a task that took 8 hours, cutting it down to 4 as an example, and really starting to get to an autonomous work environment. And that autonomous work environment is not about the streamlining of tasks, it's about eliminating and offloading entire tasks. So taking things from 8 hours, not to 4, 8 hours to 0, potentially. And we're at this amazing point where the technology has actually been evolving and accelerating and maturing, and organizations are now prepared for this type of technology to start making those massive leaps. It's interesting, a couple of years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, I was at many of these roundtables talking about the future of finance and where, at that time, AI, which was driven by machine learning and natural language, where it was going to go. And if I think about what we were talking about then compared to where we are today, I think we were directionally correct, but in fact, we're already obsolete. And so this new paradigm shift is really about going from streamlining and automating work to making it completely autonomous. And then that rewrites the entire operating model for the CFO.
Yeah, I think it's definitely changing everybody, the processes, it's reinventing their processes. What do you see, and can you expand on what autonomous finance is in your vision of that?
Yeah, that's a great question. Look, kind of what I was saying before, right? If you are taking work tasks and you're thinking about it in the context of time, and originally we were streamlining these, like how do you make them less manual, less involved. With autonomous finance, we're really thinking about how do we take these tasks and actually offload them. So you're thinking about a world in which the human operators are thinking more strategically, thinking about directionally where the organization wants to go, while offloading the work to actually AI agents. And the vision that we have is really built around 3 pillars. The first pillar really is real-time insight engine. So think of a world where anomalies are coming to meet you, right? As opposed to where we are today, where you're spending a copious amount of time hunting down the anomalies in the organization. So in this world and in this pillar, your month-end close happens on its own, right? As the close happens, insights, anomalies are being surfaced proactively, right? Instead of having to ask a question and get an answer, your questions are being anticipated and answers are being provided in advance. The second really pillar is around accelerating decision-making. So in this world, we're not running long forecasting processes. We're not running long budget processes. Simulations, scenarios, they're just happening real time, right? Your AI agents are actually building real-time scenarios, understanding new data points that are coming in, understanding projections, and really trying to help you triangulate where the business is trending and operationally what could be done to actually help course correct. So in that world, you really think about AI agents streamlining the tasks of building scenarios, but then also driving operational insights so you can be armed to make better decisions. And the final real pillar, this idea of a strategic operator, at the end of the day, it's this pivot from the Office of the Finance being the team that says no to really the teams being, here's how we get there.
Right, being a partner.
being a real partner. And we've actually been talking about this partner shift for many years, but I think this technological advance is really the next level to help you go from task orientation, execution orientation, to really elevate it, thinking about the strategy of the organization, helping shape the strategy of the organization, and then most importantly, not focused on finance execution, but really partnering with the business to ensure crisp execution throughout the entire organization. And that's really the pivot that we see going from where we are today in the current state to really an autonomous finance world.
Yeah, I think to me, that is one of the keys, is really taking the toil out of everyday work and helping them be more strategic. My product roles in the past, I've worked hand in hand with the Office of Finance and CFO, and really, how do we become very strategic in how we think and how we price and how we do all these things. And this gives them, hey, it's not they're stuck doing other stuff, like you said, closing the month, the quarter, the year. They're helping me. But you guys are unveiling some stuff today, and it really, fits into that vision. Why don't you kind of explain how this fits into the vision of what you're unveiling today with the Office of the CFO?
Yeah, I'm super excited. Look, this has been a journey that we've been on for a while. 5-6 years ago, we built out our AI labs, and we were heavily focused on machine learning and at that time natural language processing, and we were looking for ways to infuse AI into the fabric of our application to really help our customers. Earlier this year, we launched our first technology using generative AI, Prophix One Intelligence. And if you think about Prophix One Intelligence, it's all about the Copilot experience. How do you ask questions and how do you get answers, right? How do you drive insights for people in the organization? What we're super excited about today is taking that kind of Copilot foundation and starting to layer on short-term memory, long-term memory. How do you layer on learning? How do you layer on reasoning, such that you can actually start getting real agentic capabilities? And that's really what we're doing. We're launching a whole suite of purpose-built agents that are really going from how do you ask a question and get an answer to how do you ask for a task to be done and offload the work to an AI agent. And for us, it's absolutely game-changing. Like, this is the major step forward between kind of, again, Copilot towards that autonomous finance future. And the way I think about this often with our customers is, what would you do in your organization if you could hire an unlimited number of financial analysts? How much materially better could you make your organization? And that's really what we're unlocking for our customers, is how do you use an unlimited number of AI agents to drive your business forward? And today is the launch of a whole suite of these agents, and we're super excited for where that can go.
Yeah, I think that really brings it to a fine point. And I think one of the things, though, is that people really look at AI and they have both the excitement and trepidation with the fact that, hey, this could potentially replace me. How do you see, and how do you really see this addressing the concerns of AI and making their skill sets irrelevant?
Yeah, it's a legitimate thought process, right? We're, at the end of the day, we're all humans, right? A couple things I would say. First of all, just on AI in general, at the end of the day, we should always remember that AI is really just mathematics. Like, there's no science fiction to this. It's just math, right? And the natural thinking is that actually it's substantially more than it is. And so first, just a reminder for everyone that at the behind the scenes, what's actually happening is just complex mathematics at a massive scale from a data perspective, right? And that's very different than Iron Man's Jarvis, who has like a consciousness,
right?
Correct? Now, to go back to your question around like, should people be afraid? Is it going to replace jobs or not? Look, right now, I would say that the real risk that people and organizations have is not that AI is going to take the job of an individual. It's actually that an individual using AI is going to be doing your job better than you. And on a person level, that actually puts on risk to you. Someone could come in and actually do your job better. Organizationally, it means that your competitors could be actually extracting strategic value from the technology, potentially leaving you behind as an organization. And that's probably the more realistic short-term risk, if you will, around AI as it pertains to people.
Yeah, I think that is one of the major fears out there. But also the other fear is, how do you adopt AI? And with Prophix One, how do you see, finance teams really getting started in adopting AI? And do they really need to be an expert in AI to get started?
Yeah. Look, I think what's interesting about this technology evolution, unlike any other technology evolution in the past, is that every single person in the world has access to the same underlying tech, right? My kids use generative AI capabilities similar to what my organization has access to. So that in itself is a really unique position. Normally, like major advances are extraordinarily cost prohibiting, which means not everyone can get access to it. And so what I would encourage everyone, to think about is, how are you using generative AI technology today? You should be. Your organization should be. And what we've done with Prophix One is we've really taken some of the major concerns that people have around data security, trust, privacy, all of these things, and actually enveloped it into our ecosystem. So those things are taken off the table. Those risk points are taken off the table. And that really allows the technology to meet the users at the point that they are in their journey. And that's the other interesting thing. This is evolving really quickly. And so some people, some organizations are really early on. They're starting to put their toe in the water. They're thinking about using AI. They're nervous, which is totally understandable. And so for those people, really starting with the Prophix One Intelligence Copilot, asking questions, getting answers, getting insights serviced up, that's a really good starting point for people in their journey. Now, if you're further along that spectrum and you're definitely more advanced in your use of AI, then the next step is really on the agentic side. How do you take tasks that you're doing and offload those to agents, right? In this world, you're not removing a human from the process. You're not just saying, hey, look, build these models on my behalf or run scenarios that you don't understand. What you're doing is you're saying, how do I take some of the work that I'm doing and offload it? Much like you would if you could just hire another analyst, right? You got to think about these agents as just other digital people. And so if you could offload your work, that's the next major step in your evolution, right? Is like free up time and energy so you can elevate, be more thoughtful about the business, be more strategic, think about the parameters around how AI is working, but you're still there to look over the work. You're still there to approve the work. You're just not having to do the work, right? Which is great. And then the last part of that spectrum, if you will, is the final pivot to strategic. It's like if you're starting to empower your organization with insights, you're starting to offload work so you can elevate. The last piece is like, how do you lean into the new role of a finance leader? How do you start leaning into, not just writing the history of the organization or recording the history, sorry. How do you start really thinking about shaping the future? How do you start collaborating with your organizational peers? How are you partnering better so that you can drive differentiation? And for any business, that could be anything. How do you drive scale? How do we grow the business faster? How do we, find better margins and drive efficiencies to generate more cash, right? These are the things that drive value in the business. And that's the last pivot. It's like, how do you redefine the role of the team to be leaning heavily into value creation from a business perspective?
Yeah, I love that. I think that is a great way to kind of summarize what agents are in the Prophix world and in Prophix One, and what really it brings to the table to help organizations as they become more strategic. Like I said, I love the office of the CFO and partnering up with them, and I can't wait for them to have that much more toil off their plate when they use your agents. So thanks for coming on board. Really appreciate this. This has been a lot of fun.
Thanks, Rob. Super excited to talk about this.
And thank you for watching this episode, and we'll be right back with more from the future of finance revealed with Prophix.